Hey guys, today on Overtime Arcade, we're going to do something I've absolutely never done before. Now, the plastic dashboard on my OutRun cabinet, the OutRun Cabaret, the smaller version of Sega OutRun, is completely blown out. There's broken pieces. It looks terrible. And rather than spend a ton of money on an expensive reproduction, we're going to attempt to fix it with an ABS slurry technique that one of my Overtime Arcade channel members, Marky Mark, recently popularized, sort of brought it to the hobby, had a really awesome write-up, a post on the KLOV forums, KLOV, the KLOV forums. And we're going to try this for the first time, and hopefully everything goes well and I don't make a complete mess of it. But yeah, I'm really excited, a little bit nervous to try this out. So that's what we're going to do today. Also, really quickly, if you're watching this shortly after the video came out, you might be looking for some holiday presents, some Christmas presents, whatever. We got a ton of deals going on the Overtime Arcade official merchandise shop on hats and t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. All kinds of deals for Black Friday and Cyber Monday and holiday deals. So check the link in the video description, pick up some merch for yourself or somebody else, or put it on your wish list. And also, I've got a link to a spreadsheet. Yeah, I know, a spreadsheet that has basically every tool that I've ever used on this channel. So again, if you're looking for gift ideas for yourself or somebody else that's in the hobby, check the link down below for that one too. Anyways, let's get cracking with Marky Mark's ABS slurry plastic repair technique. Let's go!
Overtime!
All right, so here's what we're looking at with the OutRun Mini dashboard. Yeah, this has definitely seen better days, but believe it or not, this is the better of the two that I've owned. The other one was completely gone and just replaced with some wood. This one is mostly intact. There's sort of damage in two places. Obviously, we have a large breakage up here with plastic missing, and it's been very sloppily repaired with just some random plastic, and I don't know what this is, JB Weld or epoxy or some sort of material. And then one of the sort of screw or bolt mounting pieces has blown out. But fortunately, I have that. So I'm really kind of excited / nervous to try out this technique that, again, my channel member, Marky Mark, I would say kind of is introducing to the hobby. I personally haven't seen anyone do this before. Before we get into anything with the ABS slurry or whatever, we need to remove the previous repair. And my plan is to kind of cut this out very carefully with a Dremel. Actually, I got a new Dremel multi-tool here. This is a 4300 with a cutoff wheel attachment. I think this cutoff wheel is really meant for metal, but hopefully it'll let us kind of do what we want to do here. And I'm not sure, maybe if I go this way, if this sort of shield will allow me to get in where I want. I think going from underneath is probably the best place. And again, my plan is to sort of cut this out if I can. And then I'll super glue in, I'll cut a really better fitting repair piece out of ABS and super glue it into place, and then we can use the ABS slurry to really kind of improve this repair. Maybe if I start from the top, but sort of wish me luck here. Whatever this repair material is, it smells horrendous. I'm gonna put a mask on because I don't like the smell of this stuff. Okay, I've got a mask on now, so hopefully this will protect me a little bit better. I don't want to inhale this dust. All right, guys, I finished cleaning out the damaged area, you know, cutting everything out, cutting all of the previous repair out. And yeah, it's a bit of a mess. I kind of had to cut into some of the plastic. I used a sanding attachment on the Dremel. And then what I did is I cut out a piece of ABS plastic, and that's what this is made out of. And it's I think a 1/16 of an inch. I forget exactly. It's very, very thin plastic, but I had a piece of, I actually bought a bunch of this plastic before when I was making like, I forget what they're called, but they're sort of the pieces that prevent like a power cord from being yanked out of the back of the cabinet. Often there's a square of metal or plastic that a cord stopper goes into. I forget what those are called, those nuts, those plastic sort of nuts that grab onto a cord, and then those go into like a metal or a plastic plate that can't be easily pulled out of the cabinet. Anyway, I had made some of those, and I had a bunch of this leftover ABS plastic, and I've super glued in kind of a patch. And obviously this looks awful, right? It doesn't connect here. It's sort of too square. It needs to kind of be contoured or whatever. But don't worry, this is just kind of a filler piece. And the reason that I did this is I don't want to make the whole repair out of this slurry, this ABS slurry that we're going to concoct. Because if you try to do that, it'll just be way too thin. I thought about and actually bought some aluminum wire mesh, like a metal mesh that I thought that could kind of work as like a substrate. But all of the things that I saw, the best advice seemed to be to use just a piece of material, super glue it into place, and that's what I did. And that super glue is cured for a full 24 hours, so this is nice and secure on the piece. And basically, this is going to keep us from having to just fill the entire area with the slurry. We have this ABS material already here. It'll bond with everything else, and then once we sort of cover everything up and get additively put everything on that we want, then we can come in with very high grit sandpaper essentially and kind of work it into the shape that we need. And again, this is not going to be perfect. It's not going to look perfect. There are reproduction dashboards out there, but they are very, very high quality. But you're gonna pay for it. And I think almost every single OutRun Mini dashboard that I've ever seen has been damaged, and typically in this area. I actually got excited today. I saw an auction pop up sort of near me, and they had a working OutRun Mini for sale, and the starting bid is pretty low, but the dashboard is even worse. And like from far away, it doesn't look like it. It's damaged. The damage runs all the way down here, and I think it's just sort of been taped like with white duct tape or something like that. So we're not going for perfect, and if this completely turns into a disaster that I'd be embarrassed to have on my cabinet, I can still just go and purchase the reproduction. But we're going to hopefully, repair this original and at least get this working somewhat, get it looking somewhat like it's originally designed to be. So I've talked about this a bit. Essentially what we need to do is make what's called an ABS slurry, and ABS is a type of plastic. This is made out of ABS, and so is this black piece. We're going to make this ABS slurry, so basically a melted mixture, not with heat, but we'll chemically liquefy it. We'll paint it on, and it'll essentially act like Bondo. It'll eventually harden. We can put on multiple layers, multiple applications, and then we can hopefully sand it down into the shape that we want. And once it fully dries and fully cures, it'll be both chemically bonded to the original material, because it'll melt into the material, and it'll be as strong as the original, and we can paint it and everything. So that's what we're going to do. And again, this technique I learned from Overtime Arcade channel member Marky Mark. Shout out to Marky Mark. And he wrote up a nice like step-by-step explanation on how to do it. I think he used it to replace this broken plastic seat of a Crazy Taxi or something like that. A much bigger scale project, but the same principles. And he wrote up a nice write-up about that on the KLOV forums, the KLOV forums. I've got a link down below to Marky Mark's write-up on that. And so I'm kind of following that. And he originally got it from a video. There's multiple videos about it, but I think he's the first one to kind of introduce this type of repair to the hobby. And in fact, I was just on the Coin Jam podcast with Liam and Kay and Chance from the Canadian Arcade. And he actually had Cody from the Canadian Arcade, who's sort of the third musketeer on the Canadian Arcade, on as a bit of a guest. And he works in auto body repair, and he had never even heard of this before. And they do lots of plastic repair. So we're doing something novel here. You can look on the underside. It looks a little bit better on the underside because it's similar color. But we'll get this all squared away and shaped up. So that's good. So what we now have to do is actually make the slurry. And to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to dissolve a bunch of ABS plastic, and I cut up a bunch of smaller bits because you kind of want them relatively small to make it easy for it to sort of liquefy. This is 50 grams, in metric system, 50 grams of ABS plastic, and we're going to mix that with 125 milliliters of acetone. Acetone will basically melt ABS, and it'll create this mixture, and the acetone eventually will evaporate out, and so it melts it down to a liquid state. Again, with no heat, it's just a chemical process. It'll liquefy it. We can then paint it on, and then the acetone will all evaporate out, and what's left is the ABS that's in the sort of shape that we've created. So I'm going to put some gloves on just so I don't get all of this stuff on my skin. It's not the most dangerous stuff in the world, but you just, if you can prevent chemicals from making contact with your skin, that's always a good thing. So we'll do that. Sometimes people criticize me for not using proper safety stuff, but I think I am pretty good. So I've got just this, I don't know, is this a 16 ounce, maybe 16 ounce, 12 ounces here, so maybe 16 total, mason jar. And this is what we're going to create our mixture in. So let me just get this off with the little rubber gasket seal. Oh, it doesn't want to go. There we go. Okay, we'll put that off to the side. I've already marked this. So this mason jar, which is like the Ball Mason Jar Company, it's got ounces on one side and milliliters in here. And I'm assuming this is relatively accurate because people use this for canning. So, and I've drawn a line at 125 milliliters because it has 100, 200, 300 milliliters. I've drawn a line at 125 just to make it easy on myself. And let's go ahead and pour in carefully 125 milliliters of acetone into this mason jar. And I'll do it kind of carefully so I don't have to toss anything out. I think we're almost there. All right, close this up because this stuff will evaporate. So I'm going to say that's 125 milliliters. And again, I already went and cut the ABS into smaller pieces. And I actually made a couple of batches, a couple of bags, because this is going to take 24 hours to completely liquefy, completely dissolve. So we'll just gently drop in our pieces here. And again, it's 50 grams of ABS to 125 milliliters of acetone. We'll just drop all this in here. And you'll see it starts to immediately change the color of the acetone to a gray as it starts to basically just break down this ABS plastic material. Oops. All right. Okay. And we'll see it there. It doesn't quite cover it. Whoa, it doesn't quite cover it, but that's okay. And you can see it's already starting to get, gray. So let me come in here. I'm actually going to put some aluminum foil on the top here because I'm kind of slightly, I'm not sure if the ABS will react with the rubber lip in the gasket of the mason jar lid, but we'll just toss that on, push that down, and we'll tighten it nice and tight because we want it airtight so that the acetone doesn't evaporate. Give that a little bit of a shake here. I feel like I'm in high school chemistry class. We're creating some sort of concoction. But yeah, this, and you can see, you can't see through the acetone anymore because it's already starting to break down that plastic. So we'll put this aside and we'll let that sit for a full 24 hours until it fully liquefies and it's good to go. But through the magic of television, I've got a batch that I made last night. You can see it's a lot thicker and completely black here. So we'll remove the lid, take this cap off. The rubber seal looks kind of okay. We'll carefully remove this aluminum, and it's going to have some of the ABS slurry on the underside. That's all right. And this is the material that we're going to use, and we're basically going to paint it on um, to our dashboard here, and start to put things back together. So I'll position this here, and I've got a paper plate just to sort of catch most drippings. The other thing that I need is, this is a natural hair bristle brush. You can get these relatively cheaply. Get the cheapest ones, because these are one-time use. You're going to throw these away. So, and I did, and Marky Mark was very adamant about this, to practice before going for it. And I did sort of make this is the second batch that I've made. The previous batch I just painted on to some cardboard just to get a feel for how this material works, and because it'll start to solidify relatively quickly. So I hope I'm not getting in the way of the camera, because I need to be able to see what's going on, but we can just start to get some of this on our brush, and you can see it's like really thick paint. But once it gets on, it will start to dry pretty quickly as the acetone evaporates. So we're just coming on and basically painting it. Yep, we're dripping right away. And we can put a ton of this on. And I also, like I mentioned, I did also super glue that you know, bolt holder, or whatever you want to call it, so that we'll go around that to keep that from getting damaged. But we'll put a ton of this stuff on here, and I'm going to do at least 3 coats over a series of 3 days. One of the things that I also think I want to do, and this is dripping through to the other side, which is okay, I think. One of the things I kind of want to do is to, because this is such a fragile piece, I'm kind of going to go around the whole underside here. We'll get some more slurry on my brush, maybe less than before. I'm going to go around the entire underside of this piece and just add some slurry, paint it basically, just to reinforce it, right? It'll basically make the material a little bit thicker, right? Maybe we're going to add a 32nd of an inch or a 64th of an inch just with this slurry to help reinforce it. And again, the acetone will slightly melt even the original material, and that'll help the slurry to bond, and it'll help the patch piece to bond with the original material. Because right now, like I said, it's just super glued in place. And my hope is we'll be able to relatively easily sand all this down. And like I said, it's kind of running to the overside, top side, but that's okay. We will smooth all that out. Yeah, that's basically what we're doing. So I'm going to keep applying this. Yeah, and the only issue is I don't want it to run all over the place. So I'll put it on a little bit at a time. And like you can see, it's already starting to harden. It loses its shine as it's, you know, essentially the acetone is evaporating out. And yeah, we'll try to fill in all the gaps, build up the material. On the top side, I'll have to add a bunch to sort of build up to the contours of where I want to be. And like I said, coat the entire inside just to make it a little bit more, you know, thicker material. So yeah, I'm going to continue doing this, and I'll come back, you know, after the 3rd or so coat, and we'll see the progress that we're making, how we're building it up, and hopefully this will turn out okay. But keep your fingers crossed, guys, because this is absolutely the first time I've done something like this, and I'm really only going to get one shot. So yeah, keep your fingers crossed and wish me luck. All right, guys, I really kind of went overboard here and caused a bit of a problem. So everything was going okay, and I was applying, you know, coats of the ABS slurry, and I was trying to be a little too quick, and I was putting on just really, really thick coats. Like you can see, this is really built up. And so the good news is that this is working, and we're building up where we need to build up, and we're filling in the damage and all that. But like I said, I went a bit overboard, and I was just putting it on way too thick, and it's spongy. There's a couple of spots, like especially right here, where, I don't know if you can see it, but it's spongy. I can press into it. That's not a huge issue. I mean, this doesn't need to be really strong and rigid because this doesn't get touched. Yeah, I really kind of went overboard, and I'm assuming that the sponginess is due to there's just air in here. There's bubbles in the really thick layers of slurry I was putting on, and it took a long time to dry. I actually let this sit for 45 days. It's been 45 days since the last clip, the previous clip when I was applying everything, and but this is fixable. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Dremel tool with a sanding attachment, and I'm going to work this down until I can get into where the voids are. I'm assuming the air pockets are, and then we'll build it back up from there, and we should be okay. And we'll sand all this down, we'll smooth it out, and we'll get it looking good, and then we'll be able to paint it. And I can't remember if I pointed out, but you can see, when I peel back the sticker, this was actually really originally silver. It's been yellowed a bit, so it has more of this sort of pewter finish, but the original color was really silver, so that's what we'll use when we paint it over. If we flip it over and look at the other side, and yeah, I kind of coated the entire inside. I put a light coat on the inside with the ABS slurry, figuring, you'll never see this. It's not really going to damage or have any issues with like tolerances or anything, but this will just add some strength to the overall material. And here's where I've started to sand things down with the Dremel, and you can see the voids in here, especially right here and a little bit here. So we'll fill these in. I think the underside has been pretty well sanded down. I'm going to try to match the original edge. We need to build up a little bit more here. This needs to be worked down. But the overall shape is getting there. I just went a little too quickly. And so, lesson learned, you need to put multiple thin coats on to build it up. You can't do it all at once, or else you're going to run into these issues. So we'll get this set up here. And again, I've got my Dremel. This is actually a newer one that I got. And, we'll kind of work on this and sand it down. And let me do this, and then I'll come back, and we'll put another light coat on. All right, I finished sanding everything down for now with the Dremel, and I think we're okay. Overall, actually, the shape is really getting where I want it to be. I do have to fill in, these air pockets, these air gaps that were causing the sponginess. It's not feeling spongy at all anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill these in and coat it over again with a light coat. I'm going to have to do at least one more coat to sort of build this up a little bit, because this section here is supposed to ramp down to the top lip. This is sort of the gear shifter box. So we'll kind of build this up. We'll fill in the gaps. We'll build it up a little bit with a couple of coats. We'll coat the underside too, where I sanded it down, and we should be okay. A bit of good news, the most recent batch of the slurry that I made is still fully liquid 45 days later, which makes sense. The way you measure this, the acetone breaks down the ABS plastic and turns it into slurry. And with this aluminum foil underneath the lid, that made a nice seal. So this batch is still good to go. I did make another batch already. Maybe I'll make a third. I don't know, but this is good for right now. So I'm going to start filling this in again. Here we go again. Thin coats. Fill in these gaps, and we should be in good shape. So cross your fingers for me. All right, guys, after a few more thin layers of the ABS slurry using the technique popularized in the arcade hobby by Marky Mark, I think the overall shape is coming together. I'm kind of happy where things are. I'm going to go back to the Dremel and start shaping it a little bit. There's a little bit of a hump here, and this is more round than I want. I kind of want it more flat and angular, but I'm really happy with how this is turning out. I've got everything, nothing feels soft, nothing feels spongy or anything like that. A couple things I discovered. One, you can actually, if you're fast, use the same mixture of ABS slurry over multiple applications, especially if you're just doing light touching up. I made this batch like a week ago, and this has been working for me through a bunch of different touch-up layers. When you're doing the initial application, you'll likely have the jar open for an extended period of time, and it'll start to solidify. But if you're just doing quick touch-ups, you can use the same batch multiple times. Also, when I was doing the sort of fixing the sponginess, I found actually if it was spongy after 12 or 24 hours, I could poke it with a needle, let some air in, and that would help solidify the still wet, still spongy, or get the air pocket out. But anyway, this is feeling good, so we're gonna clean this up a little bit. We're gonna sort of polish it, get it shaped and polished, and get it all sort of everywhere where I did little touch-ups. Try to mimic the original finish, the original as much as possible. I'll likely have to use a magic eraser to really get it sort of polished up. But let me go ahead and do that, and hopefully soon we'll be ready to start painting. Okay, I think I'm done with the sanding and shaping, and it's not perfect. I'll be the first to admit that, but this is about as good as I'm going to be able to get it. Now, it turned out that even the buffing polishing wheels on the Dremel were a bit too aggressive, so I just did a ton of hand sanding with a little bit of 80, some 120, a lot of 600 grit, and finished it up with a magic eraser, which kind of acts as almost a 2000 grit sandpaper, and I think we are in pretty good shape here. And now we're ready to move on to painting. And one of the things you'll notice is I took all of the old sticker off, and you can see a pretty big distinction between the color that was under the sticker, which is like a metal, I don't know, steel, silver kind of color, and what was exposed is much more of a pewter. And I think what happened is whether sun damage, sun fading, or I don't know if it oxidized or something, but I'm pretty sure that this is the color it's supposed to be, and everything else is kind of a faded, faded version of it. And that's also evidenced by what's on the sides. The sides are a bit protected because they get tucked into the cabinet. That's more of the silver color. So that's what we're going to go with. And the closest match I was able to find was this Rust-Oleum Universal Metallic in titanium silver. I think that's a pretty good match to, and it's hard because the sheen at different angles, but I think that's a pretty good match. So that's what we're going to paint this with. I've cleaned it all up, and I think we are ready to go. I'm kind of nervous, but if it really looks bad, we can kind of redo it, I guess. But I'm going to put a ton of very light coats on, and hopefully everything will turn out okay. So let me go ahead and do that, and we'll come back and see what it looks like at the end. Keep your fingers crossed for me. All right, guys, here you have it. This is the finished product, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. We come in and look closely at the sort of major repair. We've got some pitting. There's a little bit of, I guess, I don't know, bubbling or something. If you can see in the finish of the repaired section. I'm not too worried about that. Overall, if I found this like this, I wouldn't even think twice about using it or repairing it or anything. I guess what I could have done, and Marky Mark did point this out, is sort of coming over with a really thin coat of Bondo to kind of smooth all that out, but I think we're going to be okay. A little bit of, imperfections here in the corner. And one thing that surprised me, the repair that I did here, where it had a cigarette burn, I probably should have spent a little bit more time smoothing that out. But overall, I think this looks great. The color came out really good, actually. Maybe a tiny bit more sparkly or glittery than the original color, but otherwise it's spot on. And like I said, I would say solid B work here, even if it wasn't perfect. And actually, I used this same technique with the ABS slurry to fix a blown out section of a Williams screen bezel, the plastic screen bezel, the shroud, whatever you want to call it. This whole corner here was completely blown out, and I repaired that with the same ABS slurry technique, and I think that came out okay. So we'll put the sticker on and we'll start reassembling things, and this will be good to go. And I definitely saved myself a ton of time by buying a reproduction. It was a lot of work, lots of bursts, 10, 20 minute bursts of effort, but I think it came out okay. And this will be awesome to use in the future for other things like you know, plastic shrouds, repairing that, or even plastic parts that aren't even reproduced. So really want to say thank you to, again, Overtime Arcade member Marky Mark for bringing this technique to my attention and bringing it to the hobby. And if you want to be a really cool guy like Marky Mark, consider becoming an Overtime Arcade channel member. That's right, you'll join over 100 awesome people who are supporting their favorite arcade restoration channel on YouTube. They donate $1.99 a month, and in exchange they get access to some awesome perks, a monthly members-only live stream, and we need to do ours for November really soon, early access to all new videos, and best of all, access to our private members-only Discord server, which is really an awesome community. You've heard me talk about this a bunch. If you're not there, you are missing out. So click that join button down below to learn more about what it means to become an Overtime Arcade member, channel member, or ask any of the names that you see here, because I'm sure you're going to recognize some of these folks, and ask them what they think about it. Anyway, guys, I got to run. Thanks again. Thanks for watching. As always, I've been Charlie. You've been watching Overtime Arcade. God bless you all, and I'll see you next time.
Overtime!